Some of the most important changes to American democracy this past week slipped in behind the headlines through legal filings and rule changes and ignored court rulings. Let's talk about 3 stories you probably didn't see, but ones that could quietly shift the way power works in this country. First, redistricting. In both Texas and North Carolina, courts just allowed mid-decade congressional maps to move forward, maps that clearly favor Republicans, even though civil rights groups say they weaken the voices of voters of color and partisan opponents. In Texas, a panel of judges said the new map likely violates the Constitution by diluting Black and Hispanic voting power, but Justice Samuel Alito stepped in and put that ruling on hold, letting the new map be used for now. In North Carolina, a new map significantly reduced the Black voting strength in the state's only true swing district. But a federal panel allowed it anyway, because the Supreme Court said in 2019 that partisan gerrymandering isn't something federal courts can stop. So, as long as states frame their maps as political, not racial, courts are often reluctant to step in, even when both of those factors are actually at play. And the message this could send to legislatures is pretty clear. Redraw early, draw hard, and just call it politics. The second story is immigration. The Department of Homeland Security just proposed rescinding a 2022 rule that offered clearer protections for immigrant families when it comes to the public charge test. That's a rule that affects who can be denied a green card or visa based on their use of public benefits. But instead of offering a full replacement, DHS said it would rely on future internal guidance to interpret the law. And that might sound fairly technical, but in practice, it could mean real fear. A similar policy a few years ago caused many immigrant families, especially those with U.S. citizen children, to avoid health care and housing support or food aid because they were worried it might hurt their immigration status. And advocates warn that this new move could bring that fear back, especially if the policy is set behind closed doors. And the third story is AI in elections. Last year, a political consultant used artificial intelligence to generate robocalls that mimicked Joe Biden's voice. These were used to tell New Hampshire Democrats not to vote in the primary. He was sued, he was fined, and now he says he's not going to pay either. There's no apology, seemingly no regret, just a signal to other folks that the tech is here and the rules are unclear and the consequences can start to look very optional. None of these stories broke through the noise this week, I don't think, but they all ask the same question. Who gets to count? Whose voice matters? And what happens when the tools of democracy, like maps, laws, and technology, get quietly reshaped by those folks who are in power? We've seen echoes of all of this before. Reconstruction era gerrymanders. That's not easy to say. And public charge laws that were used to sort people by poverty and race. Fake messages meant to suppress the vote. But now the tools are much faster. And the changes are more technical. And the consequences seem easier to miss. So here's my question. Which of these lines, if we don't push back, becomes the one that locks people out for good? And how do we notice the drift before the country we live in becomes something we never agreed to? Let me know which of these hits you hardest. And more than that, what you're watching for next.